Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch MLB edition. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are joined by at A Brooks Bets for a Wednesday edition, but recording for the Thursday Major League Baseball card. We usually do Tuesday nights for Wednesday, but at A Brooks Bets, he wasn't celebrating his birthday on this episode. Instead, he was celebrating sport, business, and alcohol. Tell us about your day.
Yeah, it was a fun time. We had a bunch of clients in from all over the country hosting at the casino resort at which I work, and we played golf and we had dinner and barbecue and outing. And I thought, last time we did that, it wasn't a great podcast. So let's push it a day. Let's push it a day.
Yeah. I think there was a comment. Are these guys drunk? And then I just hit it
You
or did
think?
whatever I could to not have it display. That was, I think, after a shellacking of, well, I guess it was shellacking from the Oakland Athletics perspective with a win on the road at the Texas or Arlington Rangers. Now we're recording. I've won my last four best bets on this podcast. Trying to go for number 5 tonight. And we will start on what's a much shorter Thursday card, but there's still some lines out here. And any games that we don't have numbers, I have some idea of who's pitching or some topics about what's going to occur and what's going on. Looking at you, Baltimore, especially for a very early start in Toronto. But we'll go through each of the cards in rotation order, starting the NL, then the AL, and then going through the interleague matchups, and then get a best bet to you end of show. And we'll be back to our normal Tuesday night cadence recording for Wednesdays moving forward. So we'll start in Pittsburgh for the Los Angeles Dodgers and Walker Buehler at Bailey Falter and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Looks like Bueller's a minus 175 favorite. Pretty enormous, whatever word I was saying there. Over under here is 8, just a little bit more to over. Bailey Falter's got some good numbers this year. Do you trust him in that maybe 92-mile-an-hour sinker against the Dodgers lineup?
Well, the Pirates, sorry, won 1-0 yesterday. They won 10-6 today. They kind of emptied the tank in the bullpen with 6 pitchers. So they're going to lean on Falter. He's going to need to keep, stay in there for a while. I do like the Pirates in this one. I'm glad you just skimmed over my best bets. That's very nice of you and very hostly. But I have lost my last 3 best bets all by 1 run. One of them was on the opening salvo, the opening shot from Jazz Chisholm, and then I lost in 10 innings. The Astros bullpen, I guess, let me down. But up against Kirby against Verlander, I lost in 10.
Yep.
Anyway, I think I've learned my lesson here. With a price like this, I'm gonna go plus 1.5. I'm gonna keep that run in my pocket. I think it's about even money or minus 110. Just kind of normal juice for that. So I'm gonna go Pirates plus 1.5.
So I like the Pirates here. I think I backed Bailey Falter his last start, had a 1-0 lead into the 8th inning at Toronto, and then a ball was lost in the lights by a foreigner in playing center field. Not sure if he ever played in Toronto before, but literally when your center fielder with an easy pop fly with a runner on first base with 2 outs in the 8th inning is standing like this, if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. For watching an Apple Podcast or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. Or if you're listening, just picture my arms straight out, both one side to the other side, with some guy looking lost about where the
It
ball
looks
was.
like the statue of Jesus in Rio de Janeiro. That's what it
Yes,
looks like.
there we go.
Yeah.
I mean, that pretty much, I don't want to
Christ the Redeemer.
I don't want to butcher this name, so I'm going to look it up in the background while I'm actually, I don't know, my computer
Oh,
is.
you want to really get after him. I like it.
Well, it's just, I mean, it happens, but usually not in the 8th inning in a dome. It just doesn't really. Anyway, we'll get to it. But then I also just lost. I'm coincidentally wearing a Blue Jays jersey today too, which is especially troubling. But just lost on Craig Kimbrell, Hall of Famer, as Isaiah Falefa said after the game, who had Kevin Biggio picked off at first base after he came in a pinch run, threw the ball away, and then of course after a 2-0 lead, a 3-2 loss. So the Jays walked off 2 games in this homestand, and I had the other team in both of them as an underdog and with leads, multiple leads actually in both of them. So that was especially fun. But I think at this point, the Pirates and where I was going to go with Bailey Falter is there's not a lot of belief in him, but there's no belief in contact pitchers that's been working all season with this dead baseball. I'm more interested, especially because we have fewer games on this card. What do we think about, at least from the at A Brooks Bet's perspective, about Walker Buehler at this point in the season?
Yeah, it's they say that like velocity comes back from Tommy John before location and control does.
Agreed.
Um, that probably leads to inconsistencies. That's kind of, maybe what I'm betting on here. He probably obviously has kind of top line potential, but I wouldn't necessarily put my money on him every time out right now. I'm sure his end of the season numbers will look okay. I don't, he didn't start until about maybe a month ago or a few starts ago, but he'll have good kind of cumulative stats and good ratios and everything. And he's a free agent coming up. So if you believe in that, he's going to try harder. He's going to be out there. He's going to try to get every penny from his potential suitors this winter. He might be in the line for a good season, but early and on, it's like, coming off the IL is one thing, coming off of Tommy John is kind of a whole nother level. And so that's why I'll take the 1.5 in the Pirates.
Yeah, you are extremely optimistic about Walker Buehler compared to how I feel about him. I feel
Really?
like he's nowhere. I never really thought I mean, he's a great pitcher, so put that to the side, but I don't think he's ever been a top of the line ace. And I especially think he's nowhere near his previous form. His ratios and stuff might come back later in this year. I'm not really a believer at this point. Pittsburgh can't really hit. A lot of teams in this league can't really hit, but the Dodgers haven't been hitting either and have been struggling themselves. It's early. I mean, getaway day, not a. I wish this game was like 11 a.m. Eastern time or something like that. That would be perfect. But I mean, there's so much thunder at the top of the Dodgers lineup, and I'm concerned about it. But Bailey Falter's been really good. The Pittsburgh bullpen, they've I think blown more leads than any team in baseball, but that's because they have 1-run leads all the time. I've been suffering from that, but I just feel like Walker Buehler is priced like an incredible pitcher, and he's not that right now. So this is a lot of heavy lifting for a Dodgers lineup that's been pretty inconsistent in the past few weeks and playing in Eastern time zone, away from home, far along away. I like the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I think I'll probably play money line here. Though, of course, the plus 1.5 seems like a nice, more insured way to get involved in fading Walker Buehler. Moving next to
That was
Atlanta.
a pretty fun. Before we move on, that was a pretty fun matchup today. Skeens against Ohtani. In the first at bat, it was 3 fastballs, 100 miles an hour, struck him out on 3 straight swinging strikes. And the next at bat, Ohtani took him deep. So those are 2 futures of the MLB. There, we all hope they're both exciting players.
Well, especially now that Shohei has been absolved of all gambling related issues. Not so great for Tucupita Marcano, though, who is banned for life. Sorry to him. Moving next to Atlanta at Washington, at Reynaldo Lopez at Mitchell Parker, I believe. One of the good Washington starters, though now they're down to just 3 out of 5 with somebody hitting the IL. His name, Trevor Williams, whose name was escaping me briefly, and then Patrick Corbin's still going to be there because he's paid too much and he's horrible. But we don't have to talk about him now. Parker, a plus 154 underdog at home, pretty gigantic. Total here is 8.5. I've really liked Washington back in the first 2 games of this Mets series, which they were very disappointing. And now they get Reynaldo Lopez and a very overrated Atlanta lineup coming off winning 3 out of 4 in Atlanta. Where are you seeing this Braves team? Because I'm pretty down on their lineup right now.
Yeah, that's a good question. You look up and they're 8 games back of the Phillies right now. It's clearly just a 2-horse race. I think the Nationals are another 8 games back of that. So it is still the Braves, Atlanta, and the Phillies division to kind of try to win. But yeah, I agree with you. They've been kind of underperforming. I haven't been super impressed with them. I like the Nationals here again with a 1.5. I think you're going to get minus 112 or something. Minus 115 is what I saw. And so I've just kind of learned my lesson from the close losses and how much one run really matters in the big leagues. And these are both, the Pirates are at home, the Nationals are at home. You're getting a 1.5. So even then, maybe there's a backdoor cover option, in the bottom of the 9th or something like that. So
The inherited runners scoring or the
yeah,
defensive indifference is always the friend of a plus 1.5 bet.
right,
I like that side
right.
too, but honestly, most of the time I feel like when I play run lines, my team wins straight up. Of course, that doesn't always happen,
Yeah.
and there are times when I lose definitely by a run and then kick myself for not playing run line. feel like if you played Pittsburgh and Washington, you might get a split, big home underdogs, first pitch 5 minutes apart from each other on Thursday evening, early evening, and afternoon. If you're talking about West Coast fans listening to our podcast, thank you for staying up with us or whatever you're doing. But I like Washington. Mitchell Parker's not been impressive, but neither has Atlanta, and they are a gigantic favorite behind starting pitcher who's been very good, but just not really a believer in Atlanta at this point until they show some sort of continuity in that lineup. And when Acuna went down, he wasn't playing very well, but it wasn't good beforehand and really hasn't improved too much in my estimation. Moving next to Chicago and the Cubs visiting Cincinnati. Hunter Green's going for Cincinnati. That's locked in. It looks like Javier Assad will be going for the Cubs, but we have no line. Can't guarantee that. Just got any quick thoughts on Hunter Green and his million-mile-an-hour fastball? Is that playing as well as you thought it would?
Yeah, his I think his ERA is under 4 or under 3.5 now this year. He strikes out a lot of guys, and his fastball run value is really high, and he throws really hard, and he was the second overall pick, and it seems like it might be kind of clicking together. If everybody has wood, you need to knock on it. I think he's one of 10 in the top. So that at the top 10 of average fastball velocity, he's the only one who is not hurt or hasn't been hurt so far this year. So hopefully his arm doesn't fall off. He's a big guy. Maybe it comes naturally to him, like they say it might to Skeens. This is the time in your career, though, where you have a lot of innings in the minor leagues and college and high school and whatever it was, and it kind of starts happening. But this is just one start, right? And he throws hard, and I like his strikeout potential. The Cubs have been reeling. I know they won today, but they lost seemingly a million in a row before that.
Yep. Yeah, they
the
can't
Brewers
hit.
are kind of padding their lead in that division. But even despite the Phillies sweeping them this week, so the NL Central is kind of not super impressive.
Might be the worst division in baseball, even though the entire AL West seems to be clinging to 500 at best as well.
I might even want we don't have a line yet, but if it's minus 150 or better, I might go Reds here. I think they're kind of heating up. Spencer Steer and Ellie have been hitting the ball well. They hit in the middle of the lineup, and they kind of go as they go. So incredible defensive saving plays in the last week from Ellie, one on a relay to cut down a guy at the plate, one backhanded in the hole shortstop with a runner on third today. I mean, it's fun.
How did I know a question about Hunter Green would direct all the way back
Always
to Ellie De La Cruz? I actually really like Javier Assad, but it's weird to me that he's not announced as a starter here. So I don't know if there's some sort of injury because there are all these phantom things going on in these, and we'll get to one of them coming up soon as well. And no one's being honest, as no one's professional sports ever is. Just ask the New England Patriots, Tom Brady, and all of them. Move next to Colorado at St. Louis. We got Cal Quantrill, who's been pitching very well. Interestingly enough, in Brooks and I's fantasy league, I had Cal Quantrill at home in Colorado, started against me on a Sunday, who got like the clutch quality start to take a category for me. I was like, what is the Russian bot that's in our league doing starting Cal Quantrill? But then I looked into it, and he's been pitching pretty well. Can't really say that I expect that on the road at St. Louis with Sonny Gray starting for the Cardinals, as St. Louis is starting to heat up. Maybe it's just Nolan Gorman. Maybe it's they're getting some rest to Nolan Arenado. I don't know, because he's been stranding runners every time I've watched him. But St. Louis minus 229 favorite, gigantic to say the least for St. Louis and how they played this year. Total is 7.5. Rockies, you can what on them as much as you want, but they've won a lot of games this year, and I don't know how they do it. I don't trust anything in that bullpen, but Justin Lawrence is on the IL, so that means it's Jalen Beeks and his homophobic ass pitching all the time.
Yeah, I know the aforementioned Reds just swept the Rockies, I believe, in Colorado.
In Colorado,
so
yeah.
they are traveling to St. Louis, which isn't that bad of a trip, and they've got a night game. But I like Cal Quantrill too. Plus 200 in the Rockies. This one kind of jumped out at me. I mean, again, we're at like the plus 1.5 territory, the run line.
Totally.
And you're looking at, maybe even plus money on that. However you want to slice it, I like the Rockies for sure at this price. Against the Cardinals team that I haven't believed in all year. Maybe I'm late on them. Maybe Chip Carey, we talked about this before. Every time he's so optimistic about that.
He's so optimistic. It's incredible.
I don't understand it at all.
Chip Carey,
they won 4 out of 7. They're white hot, he says.
Rex. Chip Carey was like me and Chabala walking in to like some nightclub at some fancy Le Fontainebleau, during Ultra weekend in Miami, and I saw probably the hottest Venezuelan or whatever chick, and she told me her name, and I was like, "No way, is that it?" And I was like, I'm basically Chip Carey in St. Louis at his new broadcast after he left behind the Atlanta Braves, who are going to be the best team in the NL East. Well, I guess besides the Phillies for a long time, guaranteed playoffs, to then go into shitty weather in the middle of this country. We're probably losing listeners now, so I'm going to move on. Arizona then visits San Diego. Slade Ciccone at Randy Vasquez. This line just came out. San Diego minus 120 favorite, according to Bet Online. All lines quoted courtesy of Bet Online, Sportsbetting.ag. If you don't have an account at either of those sites are the same, but they'll both give you free money. If you haven't signed up at one, sign up at the other. There are links in the podcast description and Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on YouTube. Anyway, Slade Ciccone, he's pitching for Arizona. He's been up and down, riding that yo-yo, that 40th man train. Randy Vasquez hasn't been impressive, but he pitches for the Padres, and they are much better than Arizona, I think. Do you agree?
I do. I do. I'm glad we're on the same page in this one. This is the Padres at home. This is I know the line just came out, so minus 120 is not expensive enough to scare me away at all. I was kind of, looking up stats, trying to find edges as you do all season. The Padres are actually above 500 against above 500 teams. They're 13-11 against good
Great.
teams.
Meaningful.
So yeah, that I think that's kind of a metric that might lend itself to future results. I do like the Padres. I like them at home. I like them at this price. I'm taking the Friars.
Yeah, it feels cheap to me, but that's what we're using. It's
Early
what we're
lines,
seeing.
bounce
It's
on
what
it,
we're
baby.
seeing. Yeah, exactly. There is some value. I mean, so much for my 5% closing line value today on Baltimore. But regardless, it feels cheap to me. But like whatever, it is what it is. It's what we have out there, a live line. You can bet it. So if you've got some money at Bet Online Sportsbet.ag, go sign up. If you don't, or just bet it. We'll move now to the American League. And it looks like the first game on our list is one I was referring to as I just finished watching Baltimore at Toronto. We've got undecided for Baltimore. Should have been Kyle Bradish's start. He's visiting Yusei Kikuchi. Kikuchi's been kind of deteriorating a little bit after a great start to this season, getting very little respect, in my humble opinion. Toronto is still an auto fade, I think, at this point. But Baltimore on the other side, they started Albert Suarez tonight, the older brother, I think, of Robert Suarez, as Padres closer. I learned that on the broadcast tonight. Did not make that connection previously. A lot of Suarez is out there. What's up, Gabriel Suarez, by the way? I think my question to you about this game, because we don't have a line, is Kyle Bradish, who had a UCL sprain or some sort of elbow problem, has been pitching through it, started the year late, and was really, really good. But now he's supposed to start here. They haven't declared who's starting. Literally, this game starts in 12, 15 hours, something like that. Maybe less Eastern time. But what do we think about Kyle Bradish and really just in general type of take on what we're doing with not getting UCL reconstruction surgery, not getting Tommy John with a brace procedure, and just letting guys pitch through it? Do you think that's a good idea because it worked for Zach Gallen, or do we think it's going to be a ticking time bomb? Once you have that injury, you might as well go under the knife?
I think it's a ticking time bomb. Somebody else did that. Was it you, Darvish? So somebody else has done that successfully too. So it has been done.
I think definitely Tanaka was one of the
Tanaka,
first
that's what I was thinking
that
of.
didn't
Yeah.
get surgery.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of for many years. It's interesting. It's an interesting approach. I'm looking at his Statcast metrics now. He's only had 28 innings in the big leagues this year, but he struck out 40. I mean, so his K per nine is good. His WHIP is 1.3. I meean, his expected batting average is in the 97th percentile. There's a lot of red on this chart, and if you read the baseball savant charts, that means he's been performing well. So if Bradish does take the hill, I don't see any reason to shy away from it. I think he probably, hopefully, like you said, mentioned, these guys might give some false information, but hopefully they know their body better than everybody else, and they can take care of it, and they make millions of dollars to do so. So I guess I'll probably trust the treatment process. It has happened before. I hope, he's just not.
If the
As
Orioles,
long as he's pitching well in the meantime, I say let it ride.
he's been great. If I saw him on the bench tonight, sipping some sort of orange Gatorade. So like, if Baltimore starts him, that tells me he's healthy enough. I don't think they're going to take a chance with him, especially with that injury coming in. So I'll be looking to see if Baltimore can be an underdog and finally take the series when they blew a 2-0 lead tonight. Moving next is Kansas City at Cleveland. This is a little bit rain rescheduled from a rain out on Wednesday. Brady Singer looks like he's been pushed back to start here. It's been a while in between starts. I think he missed his last start due to illness. He's visiting Tanner Bybee and the Cleveland Guardians. Cleveland minus 142 favorite right now. Total is 8. What do we think about this one?
So I like Brady Singer here in this spot. I know that he did miss his start due to illness. That doesn't seem like an IL stint kind of thing. Maybe it's the new version of COVID. Maybe who knows? Um,
COVID? Did that
we,
exist? I never heard of
we
it.
like they say, we won't speculate, but it's probably the new COVID.
It's COVID 20. Here we
um,
go.
so I like at this price, I think the Royals and Guardians are going to be the two best teams in that division. I think that the Royals, obviously they've been really good. They've been a team that I bet on at home for them. They are not at home this one. They are in Cleveland.
Correct.
But I do like, I've never been a huge fan of Bybee. I don't think he's quite there yet. The Guardians always seem to develop guys to a level that they can start, being a positive influence on the team. I'm not saying he's not, but I like Brady Singer and I like the Royals. I mean, Perez and Witt, and it's a good squad they got going there. At this price, I lean Royals.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really like Tanner Bybee, but he's rarely this type of favorite. So that's a completely different ballgame now. Um, in general, I feel like Kansas City, my biggest concern with them is I don't trust their bullpen at all. James McArthur kind of stole the role last year at closer and has done okay this year. It doesn't strike anybody. Neither is John Schreiber, former Red Sox pitcher, in the 8th inning role. So basically, you have two guys at the end of games who I think are a huge liability. Cleveland's bullpen, I think, is awesome. And I think this latest downturn in my baseball season is because Cleveland has been a favorite for like 2 weeks straight, and I haven't had a chance to bet them because they've been literally keeping me afloat and probably keeping a lot of people afloat. I don't think there's a lot for me to do here in this one. But I mean, Kansas City, they're going to try to, and I think what they've done really well at home, especially, is they get out way ahead early in games. And that's high run differentials usually suggest good teams. And Kansas City, that's usually how they win, is get out way ahead early, and then they can kind of coast with that bullpen. We'll see if they make some trades later in the season, try to fortify that. Moving next, another getaway day. Last, I think that we'll talk about in this episode is the Seattle Mariners and Brian Wu, with a lot of elbow, shoulder, weird arm stuff going on as well for him this season. Seattle's visiting Oakland. JP Sears, former Yankee farmhand who needed to get out of the Bronx to finally find a Major League Baseball career, it seemed, not get shuttled back to AAA. Wu, a minus 130 favorite on the road. Over under here is 8, and it's very juiced to under. Might see 7.5 before it first pitch is thrown, but most of the market seems to be at 8. What do you think about Brian Wu, who left his last start after like 60 pitches? It was against these same Oakland Athletics. He somehow got through 6 innings and only allowed 1 run, so it was a pretty good day, but it was a very abbreviated start. He's had arm trouble, started the year late. Are we expecting Seattle to baby this guy?
Yeah, I mean, he sounds almost exactly like in the same position as Kyle Bradish, right? They've pitched the same amount of innings. He's at 27. Bradish was at 28 that I just looked up. They both are pitching very well. I think his ERA is around 1. His expected ERA has been good too. So he's pitching well. So however they're managing it, I guess, might be working. Maybe Tommy John isn't inevitability as we all thought it kind of, or for 33% of the league, it seems like it is. But the Mariners at this price, and they're streaking, they're 8-2 in their last 10. I think they've underperformed their talent in the first part of this year. They're still leading their division by a couple or few or 4 games or something. Corey Seager left today from the Rangers. We won't talk about them too much, but he left today with hamstring tightness. So they might go on a little streak here, get a little lead, and start feeling good about themselves with the young team. J-Rod isn't even at full systems go yet. He's healthy, but he's not, top 5 player performance that we've seen from him before. So yeah, give me the Mariners on the road in this one. The Athletics have surprised some people, including me. Mason Miller is probably the best reliever in the league, and I'm be very interested to see if he moves at the deadline. There's already been talk. I've been reading some insider articles and things about what the deadline might look like, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of buyers. 14 teams make the playoffs, right? So there's going to be a lot of buyers, and there's only 8 teams, I think, out of it. So you're going to get, I think, 20 teams trying to improve themselves, and about 8, who are going to try to maybe offload for some future prospects. But that'll be very interesting to me. That's about the only thing they got going for him, though, is Mason Miller. And, they've surprised some people, but I expect maybe some regression there. And obviously they're one of the worst teams in the league already. But at this price, I do like the Mariners.
Yeah, it seems a little cheap. Maybe because of Woo's arm stuff. I'm expecting a low scoring game, even if bullpen comes in early for Seattle or something of that nature. So I like to push on 8 right now, or if you're looking for a first 5, maybe go under 4 or something like that. That'll be out there. Moving next to Minnesota at the New York Yankees. But before we get to that, Corey Seager, so he's about to go on the IL. He'll probably have one more of those stints this year. Texas lineup. I know that you have some investments in them winning the division. I watched them very intently last night as I bet Dane Dunning, who, I mean, giving up 7 total bases in the first 2 at bats to Zach McKinstry was not something I expected to see in the year of our Lord 2024. But I got to say, I mean, I guess since I live in Dallas, I might as well bring it up a little bit. How are you feeling about the Rangers? Like, because they've been waiting a long time to get that rotation healthy, but like they are pretty much like until Seager's injury on Wednesday, June 5th, they've almost got a full lineup. They're really just missing Josh Young at this point. So I guess where are we on the panic meter? 1 to 10.
It's up. It's a 5 or 6.
It's a long season, sure.
It's a long season. I did it's not all set in stone, but preseason I did say Rangers second half might be an even better bet if they struggle out of the gate. Well, that's what they're doing, and it's hard to live through it. So I'm not betting on them anymore. I did lose money on them in the first month of the season.
Yeah,
kind of been watching from afar now, but when Seager gets back and when Scherzer gets back, and maybe Evan Carter's on the IL too, actually, and he was outstanding in the postseason at a very small sample size, but he's been pretty much terrible this year.
Correct.
He can run fast, and that's about it. But he's got a back issue.
Can't do that now with his back. Nope.
He, I like the Rangers' talent, but they just haven't won enough games to be profitable this season for sure. And maybe around the All-Star break, we'll see. I imagine them to buy a little bit, piece together some things and get a few guys back and maybe make a run for it. But I'm in a hold pattern on them right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is that no one is really emerging in that division. The Astros certainly haven't looked great. And I don't think, I was expecting the AL Central to be the worst of the divisions. I think everyone expected both Central divisions to be the worst in both leagues. But looks like the AL West is doing a lot of beating up on each other. So I don't think that bet is anywhere near dead at this point. It looks like we have no interleague games. So I think it's why I'm working in some macro questions.
Dad would love that. Old school, no interleague.
Yeah. Yeah. R.I.P. Big Frank. I hope you are barbecuing, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully in like 70 years, but probably not based on my betting history and what it does to my heart and the palpitations that ensue. Moving next to the Bronx, Minnesota, and Pablo Lopez, who's an interesting topic to debate maybe at this point, visiting Marcus Stroman in a house of horrors from Minnesota. I think they literally went to the Bronx, got eliminated like 10 straight playoff seasons, it felt like. Every time Minnesota thought they had a chance, they'd then go to the Bronx and it would be no more chance. But Stroman minus 143 favorite right now at home, totals 8.5, juice pretty heavily to under. Pablo Lopez has been pretty bad, and then all of a sudden threw a really good start at Houston, got a win on Friday night. Now he gets to go to the Yankees. Pretty tough back-to-back assignments. I always thought he kind of pitched to his competition. When he faces bad teams, he's really great. Against good teams, he's not so strong. But this is a really, really tough scenario to follow up a really good Houston outing on the road, on another road trip at the Yankees, who seem to be, I don't know who's calling Aaron Judge arson judge, but I don't know where that came from and stuff. I've clearly missed that. I don't, maybe you can enlighten us all, but what do we think about Marcus Stroman, who's been really good lately too?
I believe it was John Heyman. It was definitely a reporter who announced on Twitter that Arson Judge had signed with the San Francisco Giants. He was clearly wrong because he never went to the Giants. 2 hours later, it leaked back that he is going back to the Bronx indeed.
I remember Matt Vasgersian on one MLB Network show saying, "Land the plane, John," because John Heyman was just rambling. And I remember being like, I've never heard anyone do that on a sports network, like with a colleague, but I loved it. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. This is like you talked about it, right? The house of horrors. I mean, some things are bigger than metrics in sports, and you got to use your eyeballs. And the Twins against the Yankees. I mean, everybody kind of knows what happens, right? It's like, the Yankees are the best team in the league. I hate to say that, but they are. Um, I Rodon was perfect through 5 today. I mean, if he's good and then Cole comes back, I don't even want to know what this team could
They're like,
be.
what do we do with Luis Heel? We'll just
Yeah,
maybe he'll
he's going to run
close
to a
now.
pitch limit count, I hope, but they're probably going to have so much depth that it doesn't matter, and he'll be back in September and most likely October, where they'll make a deep run. So whatever, the Yankees are good. Take the Yankees, bet on them when you can.
So I think you're saying that this AL Central is going to be all Kansas City or
I do.
Cleveland. Uh, I do think there's a man who's I think hadn't been retired all season in multiple. Do you know who I'm talking about? He might play or there might be a nickname about a car with him. I think they call him
Uh,
the Rolls Royce,
oh
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Royce Lewis. Yeah.
He was hitting
Did he tear his
1,000.
quad in half?
He was hitting 1,000, like, which is the best you could do with multiple home runs. His only at bats for home runs. I was like, damn, he should just retire and have the best season of all time. But I don't really know what to do with this one. I want to be against Pablo Lopez, really, and just in general, because I think people like him too much. This is one of those weird scenarios where the Yankees, I feel like, kind of feel cheap at home,
They
which
do.
I mean, it's above my
Weird.
pay grade. Moving next to the Boston Red Sox, we'll move to the better side of that rivalry. We go Tanner Houck on the road at Jake Woodford, who I guess has finally been released by the St. Louis Cardinals organization, finally gave up on him. Tanner Houck minus 207. I'm reading that correctly. Yes, $207 to win 100 if you're backing the Red Sox on the road at Chicago. Total here is 8, juiced very heavily to over. What is this line? Why are the Red Sox this big of a favorite?
Well, the White Sox have lost 12 games in a row. So they just don't win baseball games. It kind of like if you can bet infinity to 1 and you'll be profitable over the last 12. So the White Sox are just not good. Tanner Houck has been good.
He's great.
The starting pitching for the Boston has been good. Their outfield defense, like I read something about their outfield defense is coming around. Their infield still work. I don't know why they keep bouncing Rafaela from center field to shortstop. I'm like, you got to just keep him somewhere. But Duran and Abreu actually rolled his ankle in the dugout. I mean, it's just kind of one of those years for the
Well,
Red
he
Sox.
certainly didn't do a very good job of stopping a rolling baseball down the line when I bet the Red Sox last week, and he let it go all the way in the corner for a triple that I thought was going to be an inside the park home run at Fenway. But at least they're not there. Okay, so at least the outfield defense is improving. So the infield defense can still be like the worst thing I've seen of all time. I remember the great Hawk Harrelson saying about the Kansas City Royals way back when they won the World Series. He said, they're really good at catching the ball. I don't think Boston can do that at all here. So give me Chicago, the White Sox, the white version of the Sox. Just the price is too big. I think that 1.5 is probably a minimum because why would you want to get involved with betting a team that's lost 12 straight? That's a real hard part because in baseball, you're going to have a lot of opportunities to dumpster dive. And unfortunately, as someone once told me, when you bet shit versus shit, you get shit. I mean, sometimes it's profitable shit, but I don't know if it's worth it here on this one. So move now, I guess, to the last portion of our show, which are the best bets. Thank you for tuning in. If you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. If you say anything related to baseball, I'll have at A Brooks Bets recite it, maybe in another language. I'm not sure if he's been practicing. I'm not sure I've actually sprung that on him till right now, but maybe we'll figure something out there. If you are on YouTube, hit subscribe at the real_G Warner, figuring out a show page on there if it's even worth it. If you want it to be, maybe write a comment. That'd be cool. But then we're going to go through our best bets. I'll chop them into a minute on Instagram and on YouTube, on Reels and on Shorts, respectively. But let's get a best bet from at A Brooks Bets for this Thursday, June 6th, D-Day card.
All right, I've been less than profitable the last 3 times, but it's turned around, and I'm gonna give you a plus money winner. I'm taking the Royals on the road in Cleveland with Brady Singer on the bump against Tanner Bybee. I just like that young squad. Like you said, they kind of mash the ball. They play with energy. Hopefully, as the great Hawk Harrelson says, they can catch it. And they run around and they do the things right. I don't think that line makes very much sense for two teams that I think are pretty even.
Okay.
And I like Brady Singer. I really do. He's had a good pedigree. He's got a good prospect status, and he's rounding into form, and he might be their answer.
Sounds good. All right, I'm gonna jump into this. Let's go. Hey, this is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the Betting the Pitch MLB edition, short or real if you're on YouTube or on Instagram, or maybe just following on Twitter. Appreciate all the support there. You just might have heard if you listen to the full version on any of your platforms where you get your podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on YouTube. At A Brooks Bets just gave you Brady Singer and the Kansas City Royals a +130, +130 underdog on the road at Cleveland on Thursday, getaway day. I'm going with another getaway game as well in division. I'll go, and if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, and everything across all sports. Big, a lot of stuff coming out on summer international soccer tournaments, the Euro in Germany, and also Copa America here in the United States. For my best bet, I'm going to go with Seattle and Oakland under 8 runs. I think there's very few runs going to be scored in that one. Brian Wu hopefully hangs in long enough to get as many outs as are necessary. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thank you for tuning in, especially a day later than usual, but we will not come up a dollar short. Next week, we'll be back on Tuesday for a Wednesday podcast per usual. And make sure you win your bets, and make sure you hit that follow button at A Brooks Bets, at the real_G Warner. And we will talk to you next week.